Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing today? Welcome back to the Friday show, the Friday pre-weekend. We actually have like a normal-ish schedule with a Sunday game, and then we have actually a pretty quick turnaround to the next one. So we're going to be back to things getting a little bit busy over the next week and bit of time, and then we get a little long break, and then we're back, and then we have a really long break. So good to see you all here. I hope you're doing well today, and there's a few things I wanted to discuss. First and foremost, the news surrounding Marcus Rashford's permanent move to Barcelona, which is accelerating and moving forward in the way it has been expected to. That really, despite all the noise, was pretty much the inevitable outcome of that situation, despite doubts. You know, Barcelona like to make a little bit of noise and things like that. But Rashford's wanted to stay there pretty much at all costs. They're very happy with him. So we'll kind of cover that and talk through the latest story there. We get a few more center back links, as well as a little bit more negative news on, of course, Matthijs de Ligt, as he continues to be pretty much not missing, but just not near actually returning. A problem that is a serious problem. And in addition to that, of course, something to consider for the long term on this whole center back situation. Mason Mount back in training, but likely not ready for Sunday. Lissandro, maybe. An unknown as of now, but it is it is a difficult one on that, and we're going to do a little bit of discussion over center backs because there's been a little bit of misleading stuff out there, which unfortunately I don't think does anybody any good. You know, it's always I feel like there are, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I know I'm right on this. I feel as though there are players that, for whatever reason, we cannot have like nuanced, balanced discussions around, especially on social media. And they get a lot of support. And I'm not talking about Cubby Mainu, by the way. They get a ton of support. And it's almost, it's very strange to me in many instances because, you know, I don't know. It's a little strange to me, but then it has the opposite effect sometimes, where then you get like heavy pushback because you get misleading stats and you get things like that. And it is a bit weird. And we'll talk about that with Lisandro Martinez. And because I don't think it does the players any favors to not be able to talk about, you know, strengths and weaknesses and things. And it is something that has to be considered when we look at the fact that a center back is a potential topic this summer as well. But you'll know who I'm talking about as well in addition shortly. So few things to kind of discuss on that front as well. We'll also do our squad vote for Sunday's match since it's a fairly early kickoff. I will probably be live for pre-match and all that, but whatever. But we'll be there. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Mr. Rashford first and foremost, because this is a good one. You know, as somebody said there, Daniel, you have to give credit. You've got to give credit to Wilcox, to Omar, to the negotiations team, whoever was involved alongside Rashford in getting him, you know, that move. One thing you do have to credit as well to Marcus is his professionalism during that summer.
James seen the link to Sangare. Riley hope it true.
I don't think it is at this point, just for what it's worth. Just to give you my instant take on that. I don't think at this point I can back that link up. And that doesn't mean I don't know. It means I mostly heard no, that it isn't true. It's just, there's going to be so many names now, and some are and some aren't. Maybe it was just somebody occasionally watched. I don't know. But for now, I don't think that there's anything in the link as of this point in time. But Marcus last season, obviously, when we had the squad, the guys who were not really allowed with the team and all of that, came in, did his work, quiet, waited for Barcelona, took the wage cut from Barcelona, didn't make us pay the difference in wages, didn't hold up the deal for it, got it done. And now Barcelona have agreed essentially on a full deal with Marcus to stay on a permanent transfer. And if you remember, when there was all this noise in the last couple of weeks about, Rashford, about the them wanting to negotiate the fee, all of this kind of stuff. One of the things I can tell you I knew and I shared certainly is that a big part of it was more to do with, pressure. Barcelona have two things that they need to accomplish with this Rashford deal now. One is getting Rashford to take lower wages because the loan agreement was only for 1 year, $300,000 a week on wages. They weren't going to pay that over there. He still has a couple years remaining on a contract. You have to settle the difference because United were not willing to pay, the termination gap. So let's say that Barcelona were only offering 100,000 euros a week and it comes out to 5 million, and then there's a 6 million gap for 2 seasons. United were not going to pay out that 12 to 15 million. Barcelona wanted to make sure that it was at a deal that was fine on the basis that United were unlikely to be paying out any kind of wage, I forget the word for it, but we've talked about this before in recent years, but pay out the differential in wages and do a big payout as a part of the sale. So essentially that was what a lot of it was. They would either need obviously free so they could pay out the difference of the wages, or for him to take lower wages and, and express that. So it looks good now. Barcelona closed in on full agreement with Marcus Rashford. And as I say there, this is the expected turn of events moving forward now on the Rashford deal towards a full completion of this signing for him to join Barcelona. They'll settle the salary in the coming days, get that all sorted. They'll make an agreement to pay the option. It'll come as late as possible. They'll do it in installments. He'll stay at Barcelona. He's happy. They're happy. It's been a successful move for him. His career is back on track, and I can only say good for you. United are not budging on that deal. They were not interested in renegotiating it. He's clearly worth 30 million plus. He's worth more, obviously, but with the wages and things like that, you have to consider that as a part of the cost factor in this. But regardless, I'm very happy for Rashford personally that he has, got his career back on track fully at Barcelona and that it is successful for him. And as somebody mentioned, one of the interesting things that we'll get to in a later section with regards to the center backs is, yes, Marcus Rashford did play through a significant back injury, one that was severely hindering him over the course of a couple of seasons. This is why I'm a bit more balanced in my takes around Rashford and his time at United and some of the difficulties that he dealt with, because these are factual things. Marcus Rashford had a couple of injuries, but one of them was that back injury. He played through it. He played through a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty. There was games I know for certain that, he wasn't even able to literally bend down and touch his toes during, in the dressing room and such because of all of it. Now you can get away with that a little bit as a forward, not so much in certain other positions, which is where it becomes a concern for De Ligt in a similar case. Those injuries can be brutal, but obviously, back healthy, doing better, and that's great. And I'm happy for him. I think he's in a better environment for him and has really rebounded in his career. And it's always good to see that because it doesn't always happen. Shit happens in life. I think people take it too personally when a player has a down spell at a club and things don't work. And in some cases, they're not able to get their career back on track, and it becomes a permanent decline and something that never changes. But for Rashford, he's a good guy and has done a lot. And I'm very, very happy that his career is going back in the direction that we'd all hoped it would be, in a place where he is happy and all of that as well. And of course, for United, it means 30 million in profit incoming and not having to worry about the future in terms of the wages and things like that coming back. Again, as I mentioned the other day, will likely be paid in installments, and I would bet that we will take out, similar to what we've done, take out a loan on the money that's coming in installments to get the cash up front. One of the things we were just talking about yesterday is United owes something like 220 million in transfer fees within a year. We will have the cash to pay for those as well by that point in time, but not a ton extra. So we're going to need to raise those extra revenues and probably get loans against some of the sales that we make this summer, including Rashford, Højlund, and a few other things. And then in addition, we've got to get Champions League for our summer spending. We've been over this a million times, but I just did want to reiterate it and iterate it and reiterate it again because it's very, very important. United are planning on a very, very specific situation. They are planning on a very specific kind of yeah, here you go. Mateo Moreto says Barcelona is very close to securing Marcus Rashford. He's always been a priority for both Flick and the club, as we reported over the past few months. So there you go. He is all set there. But anyway, it's just really, really important to note it, okay? That just how important Champions League is, because we do have plans to do a very significant spend this summer. And I do mean significant if we can get Champions League, okay? So let's just pull together, hold the line, get it over the line. This weekend will be a big opportunity to that, so we'll come back to that with regards to Palace. Now, let's talk about center backs. Wait, that sounds pretty good, actually. Anyway, Michael Carrick once again confirming that Matthijs de Ligt is still out, and there really is no timeline for his return. He's been close to returning on a few occasions, but has continued to have pain. And yes, this back injury, essentially is like a fracture in the back, is super problematic for players, and it's really, really unfortunate because it's so hard to get rest. It's so hard to let it heal because you have to maintain fitness. You have to maintain work. Even basic things that you're doing every single day put strain on your back. Anybody who's had any sort of chronic back issue or back injury will understand it. It is one of the hardest things to deal with. And for a football player, an athlete, it is even harder because it's not like, you know, a soft tissue muscle injury like a hamstring where you let it heal up for a week and you start doing basic little things to regrow and re-strengthen the fibers and all. It ain't like that. And there is no genuine guarantee as to how it heals, when it heals, what happens to it. It can be months, it can be weeks, it can be never. It can be debilitating in that regard from the standpoint of high performance. And then you also have to factor in, for a center back, constant friction. And I mean like actual friction, like bodies hitting bodies. Look at the mosh pits we're seeing on corners and things like that. You're getting constantly, hit. You're getting constantly bumped. You're getting constantly shoved. You're for a center back, you're being asked to play into contact as your job. Whereas, as mentioned before, for somebody like a winger or a forward, it might be a little bit different, where they might, be playing into spaces most of the time. And contact is very, very different in that respect. I think it's a really unfortunate situation, but one that we have to face the reality on. There's the core strength. There's the mental focus of trusting your body. There's you can end up feeling afraid of going into contact over the pain, things like that. It's a worry. And I'm not professing to know all of the ins and outs of the whole thing. I'm saying that, it is a serious concern, back issues in general, and that limits what we have. And then there's Lisandro Martinez, and that's where I want to talk about a little bit there as well. Because if de Ligt is out, will we see him again this year? I don't know. Lisandro Martinez maybe or maybe not back for Sunday. Harry Maguire, we know what he is. And he's not the long-term solution for us. Aiden Heaven, a young prospect, has not played, right? More than maybe a couple minutes under Carrick as of this point in time. Lenny Yoro, top potential player, but one we have to consider. Now, let's talk about Lisandro, because I really do want us to be able to have like valid discussions about players' strengths and weaknesses. We can't ignore it. We've had more and more links to center backs, and I'm not saying all of them are true, but I warn you guys every single year, just so you have a knowledge, just from a knowledge standpoint. The links that start coming out in February, early February, mid-February, late February, March, this whole period, they start coming hot and heavy. The links are just going, right? there's truth to a lot of them, and in many instances, it's about searching for more. It's about searching for more options and keeping your eye on things and scouting players, and then they always get played up, and they're pushed further beyond that they are, and blah blah blah. But they are real links, okay? In that United are, with all the links that are coming up, looking at center backs, and that isn't an accident, right? That's not something that they're doing without purpose. That's not something they're doing just for the fuck of it. They're doing it because there is an interest and a potential need being viewed for center backs moving forward into the future. So look, the reality there is that we've got to really be. We've got to be real, okay? In the past, we might have looked at this football club and said, hey, we got 5 center backs. It's all good. But when you start to go through it, it's very different. And you look at the way that we've cleared players out, to look at the way that we've been fairly ruthless in that regard, and we're probably going to have to again. We've discussed we've discussed De Ligt's injury issue. Here's the thing about Lissandro, right? So I saw something going around, Lissandro, 75% win rate on aerial duels, one of the best in the Premier League, actually. And I wish that people didn't post misleading statistics. I really would do. I really do wish that wasn't the case, because it doesn't actually help. It only makes the situation, it results in a backlash, and it results in a come on type of thing, right? And a response that's unnecessary. It's important that we can accept, acknowledge, and discuss the realities of players, okay? Here's what it really looks like, okay? Just for what it's worth, all right? This is aerial duels per 90 for center backs in the Premier League. Yes, Lisandro Martinez performs the least aerial duels in the entirety of the Premier League. You understand? Not he's okay. He does none. He does not compete for aerial duels. He does not, okay? He does not fight in the air. And I mean it seriously. It's 1 per 90, all right? Van Dijk competes for 6 per 90. That's the difference between here and here. It's 600% the difference, all right? Lisandro Martinez is not competing for aerial duels. Factually, from a stat standpoint, he's also at 53% success rate, not 70%. I don't know where that one's coming from. But it's just important to really note this, because while Lisandro Martinez is, of course, among the elite ball progressors in football, and I found, I think, a good graph for us to look at in terms of what we need, because discussing center backs is a hard topic. As I was saying before, I quite prefer the Maguire and Euro combination. And the reason is kind of this. If you're taking Euro and Lisandro, Lenny Euro is decent in the air. Not good. His success rate is a bit low relative to most center backs. It is a bit low. He's kind of good at a lot of things at the moment, but not great at anything yet is Lenny. He's pacey and things like that. You look at Maguire, obviously been playing in a 3, it kind of changes, but his success rate is 70%. That's the size of that circle there. So you have to just look at it and bear in mind that we have to balance our midfield correctly. And moving forward, what we really do need out the back is this player, okay? I was saying the other day, you still need that dominant leader center back there, like a prime Van Dijk type of player. You do need that as an archetype, somebody who's quick enough to clean up counters, good in the air, good in duels, and quite competent on the ball. Well, there's a couple of options that show up in the Premier League overall, if you look at it, and one of them is Van Hecke, and I believe that Van Hecke is on United's radar in general as a center back this summer. From what I know, I do believe he's somebody that they've looked at. Now, if you go and look at Mickey van de Ven, this is again why I do not rate Van de Ven when you look at it statistically. He's one of the worst aerial duelers in the Premier League. Again, the guy's just fast for nothing. He's not particularly a good progressor of the ball either. Senesi, also available for free. Has a pretty low success rate on here. You know what? If we could I'll just do it this way so you guys can see it a little bit easier. Here. This is just, if we just look purely at aerial duels, you're going to see some of the worst, which is Van de Ven over on this side. We want this corner, but again, we also do want that progressive passing ability, the ability to move the ball forward. Aggressive, let's see, that's possession adjusted. That would be interesting. Let's look at that. From a possession adjusted standpoint, then you get a few other options that start to show up. Murillo is actually quite strong in progressive actions as well. I also think he's quicker. That's why I like him. Doesn't compete a ton for aerial duels, but again, he's actually quite good in possession, but not that great in the air. He is small as well, so you still need to pair him with a big player, but he's quite fast. Hill at Bournemouth looks good. I mean, all the guys there. Ballard is an interesting one that people have been talking about that I think is definitely worth thinking of. And I would also add here Nathan Collins. We've talked about a few times in the past. He's looking like, from what I've seen, a very good all-round center back. Nathan Collins is. If we take this out of this and put it back here, you can see kind of Nathan Collins around this range. I think Nathan Collins is quite good. If you bring this down to like under 25, if we were going for a younger player, then you're looking at, Collins, Thiaw, who we've been linked to today by Christian Falk, shows up quite well on a lot of things. I think there's some difficulties that he's had. I've seen certainly some analysis of him in being weak in certain aspects. That's for sure. I would agree with that. Again, Lenny kind of in the middle at the moment, but coming along, hasn't played enough to kind of see. This is just the Premier League, right? Obviously, yes. Don't worry. Don't get it wrong. That is just the Premier League. If you expand this list out to other leagues, you're going to see other options that are out there. I don't know if we've really been linked to them. They don't have to be under 25 even, but it's just the data just gets so messy. It's a little hard to see. Carmo, we were interested in at one point, but he had some serious injury or something. That was a long time ago as well. Gahey was again, I think, a huge miss going to City. He's a top center back as well. But ideally, you'd want somebody kind of in this corner in the long run, or this quadrant. Good in the air, good on the ball, doing a lot of things on that front. That's what we would want overall. Now, we could also look at it on the standpoint of more of just like a pure defender, and bring it back to the Premier League. In which case, you're going to get some different options showing up. This is where De Ligt shows up really well. As a pure defender, he's very, very strong. Very, very good. When you remove the pass progression, Aiden Heaven, good defender. LaCroix, good defender. Collins still shows up well on a lot of these. And you're getting kind of other options there. Let's look at the Bundesliga, right? We were looking for Schlotterbeck. Now, Schlotterbeck doesn't do a ton of aerial duels per 90, but he's good on defensive. Let's bring it back to progressions as well. Curious about that one. Where is Mr. Schlotterbeck? So he shows up really high on the progressions as well. So he's a good player. If you were to put this as progressions and defensive tackles, what was it I was looking for here? I was looking for defensive duels, 1%. Maybe it was total. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Regardless, you get some interesting takes by looking into all of these kinds of all these different metrics and things. But the long and short of this is that United are definitely, for what it's worth, interested in and looking at center backs. And it is something that we have to consider as for this summer. And I covered a bunch of names in a previous video that we're looking at. We've been linked to quite a number of different young center backs as well already in the last few days. There's one, there's this Kinte, and then there's, what was the other one? We were just linked to like this morning, I want to say. and looks an interesting name as well. So we'll see here, but it is certainly an area of focus for United. It is certainly an area to think about, and we've got to be real, about what is actually needed. United need a top center back. We do. And as I've said before, I do worry a little bit that it's going to be the type of thing that fades out of our sights in the long term that we don't end up getting to. I have concerns about that. I think it's fair to be, a little bit worried about that aspect as to whether we will get it done. And again, that's why we need Champions League, because we've got to get through that whole plan. This isn't to say a center back is top of our list, but it is up there. And it's probably on the 4th or 5th priority at the moment after the two midfielders, a forward, as well as, and then you're getting to like between center back and fullback are being priorities there. So we need a lot of money. We need the money. We need it. But this is an interesting question for you guys. Like, it would be hard to sell any of our center backs right now, right? Because Lissandro's on the back end of his contract, 1 year left on his deal. De Ligt is on, he's got these injuries and all of that, so that's difficult. I don't think we can really raise much money as far as center backs go to make space there beyond moving someone like Heaven or Yoro, which I don't think is what we intend to do. But we're gonna have to just have a big budget because we're not really gonna be able to raise much funds. Is our defense here's my question to you guys? Put it in the chat. Just your answer on this. Is our defense good enough? That's a good question. Is our defense good enough to compete in the Champions League and Premier League football next season? 1, if you think so. 2, if you don't. For me, that's a big 2. I think it's a good, but it is a tier below any top teams in terms of qualities out there. And that's with rating quite a few of our players in general. I think we've got a very, very good goalkeeper. I think we have good qualities in our center backs, but I think we are lacking the top level center backs for sure on that front. And I think that right back is a concern too, because that's another player I want to discuss here a little bit, which is really funny. All right. The constant revision and back and forth on Diogo Dalot. All right. Like, has Dalot been, all right. It's been a really funny week to look at like narratives, because suddenly this last week, I don't know where it's come from, Diogo Dalot is being painted as like one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. Seriously. It's all over the place. Like, look, I think Dalot does some decent things. I do. I think he does some decent things in build-up. I think he does some decent things in all of the play. He's nowhere near that good. And it's been painted now as if he was only bad under Amorim. No, that's just completely false. We watched many years of this, of good 6-month stretches and then a bad season, and then a good few months and then a bad season. It's been like this for a long time. He's so far away from good at certain things. Here's where Diogo Dalot is very, very good. If you take out your own third and you take out the opposition's third and you only played football in the middle thirds, Diogo Dalot is a very, very good player. His progression is very good. He's able to drive the ball well forward. He has some good link-up play. He has things like that. In either third, he will cost you game after game after game after game. And unfortunately, that's where the games are won and lost at the end of the day, in big moments. Defending at the back post, one-on-ones against wingers, crossing it into the box, all of those sorts of things. It's bad. It's really, really poor. But we can acknowledge where he is good, and that is through the middle of the pitch and the progressions and things like that. And he's been better in recent weeks, but he still has absolutely no end product at all. He has absolutely no end product at all. Every cross This is where his stats are completely misleading. You watch him, every cross is going over the keeper's head, over into the other side of the box. Every single one. Guaranteed. You know, he's found himself in attacking positions to score goals time and time again under Ten Hag, under Amorim, and even recently, and he cannot finish his chances, okay? He's not good enough. It's no amount of painting it any other way is going to be true. He's just not good enough. Now, is fullback a weak position in football? It absolutely is. It is a weak position in football right now. Probably the weakest position in football at the moment, in my opinion. But if you want to see what an actually very good fullback is, you can just watch them. There's quite a few good players out there, top players out there. Nuno Mendes, Hakimi, guys like that are really, really, really good. Okay, that's what a top fullback is. Dalot is in the same bracket as a lot of other fullbacks that are there in England. There's a lot of players, okay? A lot of players in that bracket where they're good but not good enough, okay? And that doesn't mean that that everybody's got better ones. It doesn't mean that there are great fullbacks out there left and right to choose from, or that everybody you might want to sign is going to be better. Because there's a lot of fullbacks out there, guys like Frimpong that get super hyped up, and they come in and they're trash at everything. And they're shit at everything. Dalot isn't shit at everything. He's definitely not shit at everything. But he had a lot of very, very, very bad moments. Okay? Very bad moments. All right? Over the years that we're not going to wipe out and just say, well, it's because of X manager or this and that. He's been better recently, and I hope that continues, but I rate him as average. He's a good, decent, average player, okay? That is fit, that is fast, that is available, and all of that. But one of the things I think that Carrick did get wrong in the last game, and he mentioned this in the presser, which I don't understand, this doesn't make sense to me, is he said we switched it to going the other way around, essentially, where against West Ham, Shaw was attacking and Dalot was staying in the back. And in this game, we switched it. Shaw was in the back and Dalot was attacking. We got through on that like a couple times in the first 20 minutes. And after that, it totally died. It completely died. And we did absolutely nothing the rest of the game from attacking through those areas. And I thought it was very strange. So Carrick's setup usually has one fullback go up, and then on that side, the winger tucks in. It naturally makes a ton more sense for Shaw to be the one going up and Cunha tucking in than it makes sense for Dalot to be going up and Ahmad tucking in. I hope we don't go back to that this week, because I think that's going to be a lot worse. I just don't see how that works for us. Shaw, I think, was actually, if you watch the West Ham game, Shaw found himself in a lot of good attacking positions to make crosses, but we didn't have anybody in the box during the West Ham game. We didn't have a striker. We didn't have good occupation. We didn't have the ability to get crosses in. I don't think that was a worthwhile adjustment. I think it made our attacking way messier and more inconsistent, even if we occasionally found a gap, especially in the first 20 minutes over there. I think Shaw is a much better final thirds player, and I think that it makes a lot more sense tucking Cunha in than it makes sense tucking Ahmad in and putting Dalot out wide. I just don't get that. That balance, I think, is something Carrick got wrong in that game that I hope will be corrected against Palace personally, because I thought that was a fairly pointless adjustment as well. But look, it is what it is, and it's a strange one. Dalot is decent. Okay, he's a decent player, and we don't need to sit and hate on all of our players. But what happens, as I said, is we get these really weird kinds of things where, like with Lissandro, as I was mentioning, where these like narratives get really heavily pushed, and it doesn't really result in a balanced discussion, and then people will talk about anything you say about them as hate, and it absolutely happens with Kobbie Mainoo as well. Okay, it absolutely does. All right. It happened with Kobe Mainoo as well. But it's like we got to, and Casemiro too, right? We just have to have nuance in discussing things. Fullback is definitely a position where I don't feel confident in the players that we have either. I really hope Dorgu can come back and play in the back four on that left side and see how he gets on. Because from an attacking standpoint, Dorgu has the most qualities going forward. I think he would fit the Carrick system very well as a fullback moving ahead, where he can get up high and we can do it on that side too. But yeah, I think that I think we very much need some fullback reinforcements this summer. When I was looking at, I think you could get away with Dalot because there's things he's good at. And I think you can get away with Mazraoui because he also thinks he's good at it. I think Mazraoui is very, very press resistant. I think he's a very good individual defender as well. Has same weaknesses in the final third. I don't see much from Mazraoui by way of crosses and things like that in the final third. But that's why on that side, get Ahmad or Mbeumo back out wide. Here's the thing I want to say about that from a tactical standpoint for Carrick. Mbeumo's one of his best traits is that in-swinging cross from out wide, right? Getting him out on the right wing, in-swinging cross to a striker. Bread and butter, tons of assists last season. Assists already this season to Šeško on it 2 or 3 times. Get Mbeumo back out in those clean air out wide on the right and have Cunha tucking in from the left because he's going to do it anyway. And that's what we need to do moving forward. Get Mbeumo back out there getting those crosses in. I'd rather have Mbeumo take that cross any day over pushing Dalot up from a fullback position and asking him to cross. That doesn't make any sense to me. To me, that is a weakness. That was a mistake. That's something that you just drop Ahmad. For the game, just drop Ahmad. Just get Mbeumo out wide. We'll talk about the team in a minute. Get Mbeumo out wide. Get Šeško in the middle. Get Cunha on the left. Don't invert everybody. Get Mbeumo out on that wide right. He's so good out there. It's unbelievable. Even the second goal United score against Spurs. Whose goal was that? It all came from it was Bruno's. It all came from Mbeumo moving out wide, dragging defenders, taking them on, moving around, getting out wide, and opening up space. But Mbeumo's in-swingers from that side and play out on the right is where he needs to be. But yeah, look, it's just a reality we got to be able to discuss. No, Diogo Dalot's not shown that he's good enough to be a title-winning fullback. Neither has Shaw. Shaw had his best, as I think Shaw's had a very good season. I think he's been decent, but Shaw has been one of Shaw's attacking qualities where he's past his best on that. We know that. He was so good a few years ago. But that is the level you're going to need from a fullback if they're going to be attacking. Those levels that Shaw had, the combinations with Rashford from some years ago, that's what a top fullback looks like in attack. That's what it looks like. We don't have any who can do that right now. And so we need at least one who can do that. And we can't pretend that they can't. Lewis Hall would be the perfect player to do that. But we need someone doing it. What Shaw was doing those years with Rashford when they were intercombining over on that side, they were doing an amazing job. So yeah, I want a fullback for that reason. Somebody's got to be able to do that. And no, the center backs, we just have weaknesses. And I like all of them. A big fan of Maguire. He's got weaknesses. Big fan of Licha. He's got weaknesses. Big fan of Shaw. He's got weaknesses. They've all got weaknesses. And unfortunately, I think we have too many weaknesses. You're allowed to have some, but we have too many. So I do hope we get to the defense next year, because as we become a more dominant side and a stronger side, those weaknesses are gonna show up time and time again and hurt us. And I think they do. When we're facing these low blocks, certainly one of the issues is that our fullbacks aren't good enough at attacking, to give us the extra punch that we need to break through those defensive lines and things. They're generally not good enough to do that. Now, what I want to also speak about here before we get on to Palace is I want to speak about the coach, all right? Because one of the things that I can tell you right now is that the process of looking at the coach, considering the coach, discussing the coach, and seeing what we want to do moving forward is definitely in progress. It is for sure in progress. I do believe that there have been additional checks, calls made, things like that in the recent days. And I think there will be further discussions held during the next international break as well for the head coach position. That being said, I made a video at the start of last week. Is it just Carrick? Where with the concept that it may well be that we end up in a situation where Carrick is just the sort of the simplest choice to be made here from a head coaching standpoint, because he's in the job, doing a decent job, and it's hard to be certain about clear upgrades. One of the things I do believe has continued to occur is that certain names been completely eliminated on the basis of, well, why would we want to do that? Like Glasner, right? We've talked about that in recent days, but Andy Mitten kind of confirmed recently that he's certainly not in the running at this point in time. He would have been previously, but the kind of the meltdown that he had, but also I think the revision in expectations from United over the coaching thing has probably ruled out a vast majority of potential candidates in football, which is that they want someone with the kind of experience and certainly with the kind of temperament and things like that that are needed. So that rules out a lot. And it also positions Carrick very well, because essentially you kind of look at it, he replaces a lot of the candidates that could be out there, does Michael Carrick. And from what I keep hearing, like, it does definitely get stronger and stronger. And what that tells me is it's not just about Carrick winning. It's not just about our record. It's not just about the points that Michael Carrick is getting stronger on the case. It would be that he's getting stronger on the case because we do not have yet expectations of being able to, or that there's a top manager that's like easily obtained or lined up, right? Because if that was the case, then kind of regardless, we'd probably make a move for it. So it feels as though, yeah, the options in terms of the top coaches are certainly limited, as we discussed, has been getting more limited by the day. But that narrows things closer and closer to where, sure, if Carrick is doing a good job, ends the season well, that by default, he'd probably become then the favorite at this point in time. And I keep hearing things like that more and more. Now, with that in mind, it does contextualize the conversations a little bit more. I think we do need to be able to discuss and, to be fair, judge Michael Carrick on a little bit of a different scale. Maybe, again, two different scales like we've been talking about in recent times. There's the scale of what you get done this season, what happens this season, what is accomplished, where do we end up? And there's the scale of what are you looking at for a guy who it's a different job in the permanent. It's a different job when you have multiple games a week. It's a different job when you're chasing a title. It's a different job when you have to, when you have more time and go fully into your tactics. Does it get better or does it get worse? How do you manage all of those changes and things like that? It is a different job. Let's just be clear. Job description, what you're applying for as the interim and as the permanent, totally different things. And our discussions over who should be next and all of that have very different standards. I think that the standard for this season for Carrick is just get as many points as possible by any means necessary. Get us the hell back into Europe, ideally Champions League. Make sure that happens. On that, he's starring. The standards for next season is a bit different because there is this point of like, does it scale? Does it translate? Are there top attributes at play? Unknown factors about the different schedule and things. And I'm not comparing these two things, but I'll give you a sort of an example and why I do think people get a bit too ahead of themselves, right? Ten Hag. Okay. We won the FA Cup. We got back into Europa. We beat Man City. won a trophy. And people used that to justify that the majority of fans had that as a justification for the fact that for him being in the job the next year, because it ended up being successful, that we won a cup, won some silverware, and did something. Okay? But it was a disaster the next season. I'm not comparing the two in this respect because it's different when you're talking about league form and things like that. But I'm just saying it's not just about winning. It's not just about winning something. It's not just about the emotional aspect of it, right? It is about two different decisions. Ten Hag did have a successful end to that second season. Won that trophy, a big trophy, a good trophy. Got the team into Europe again. That doesn't mean it's the right choice to stick around. And the same could be said for Michael Carrick. How it looks over the course of the next few months, how the games play out, the decisions that are made, the type of football we play, those are totally relevant for the second part of the discussion. Not the first part, but the second part. Because he may well be a candidate for the job next year. And when you're looking at that, you're not just going, well, we got top 4, so it's a shoo-in. Okay? Jose Mourinho got us top 4. Jose Mourinho won the Europa League. But the style of play, what we were doing, we're always headed towards disaster. These things do matter. So we just have to have separate decisions. We just have to have separate decisions. And I think it's fair. I think it's fair to have those discussions without it being a super negative thing, because it was always going to be relevant about how the next manager is selected. It's always going to be relevant in that regards. By the way, speaking of Ten Hag, did you see the the Wan-Bissaka interview? If you ever want, in one sentence, if Wan-Bissaka explained the entire Ten Hag tenure and how disastrous it was for our squad, how horrible his man management was. He arrived and told Wan-Bissaka he wasn't in his plans, and then wouldn't let him leave at the same time. What a mess. What an idiot. I mean, geez, I swear to God, it was intentional. It was intentional sabotage to create the least amount of the most disharmonious dressing room ever. I swear to God was Ten Hag's intention, because if he could have disharmony, then he would always be in charge, and he would be in control of that chaos. I swear to God, that was on purpose. I swear to God, it was on purpose. That he was doing it on purpose. Just destroy the dressing room, so that there was absolutely no challenge that could be built among the crowd together. I swear to God, that's what he wanted. I know it. I just know it. The things he did, the confusions that he had, the ways he laid things out, just divide and conquer. God, I can't stand that guy. Anyway, whatever. Regardless, it is an interesting discussion overall with Michael Carrick. But again, we are in the process on this manager situation, coach situation. We are talking about it now. We are exploring different possibilities, and I do think that in general, if we do keep winning, that yes, Carrick will end up very strongly in that driver's seat for the job, and that tells me that they're not yet having any sort of success in terms of saying, well, we have a top coach that we feel we can get. But we should judge, we should separate and be able to discuss them as two different topics moving forward. The way we play over the next few months is going to be important in terms of the decision about what comes next. Okay, from a standards standpoint, and what decision has to be made, and I'm telling you that because we're gonna talk about it, And when we go through Palace, we win, we get the 3 points, we're gonna be happy. How it happens, that's gonna be a separate conversation. What do we think this affects in terms of, Carrick for the long haul? How do we think this improves? Do we think this is a step in the right direction, wrong direction? I want to know those things, and I want to be able to discuss those things fairly as well. So there you go. That's that. It's interesting times with regards to, yeah, it's very interesting times, and we're certainly going to be getting going on everything. What else? All right. So, let's see. Yeah, shenanigans, you are correct on that. Our win rate over that 12 months was actually lower. Crazy to think about. Let's talk about the lineup. So for Sunday, speaking of Crystal Palace, speaking of Michael Carrick, and speaking of what we all want to see, what do we want to see here in terms of the lineup? This is what I've got. This is what I've got right now. And by the way, the picks, of course, are live for the game. Ahmad to score, give an assist. I'm going to say no because I do think he's going to be benched. We've got to score 2 goals to win this game. A clean sheet against Palace. I'm going to say yes. 4 corners, yes. I feel like there'll be not that many corners in general. And I feel it'll be... I might go with those. I haven't decided on the last one. But here's the picks for Crystal Palace if you want to get them in. The link to that is below as well. So get your picks in. I think there's also still a bonus going on for those who enter. But let's do our lineups. Let's talk about the lineup. Let's start from the back again because I thought this was a good way to do it last time. I thought it made it a lot easier. Let's start from the back. At the right back position, who are we going for? Dalot or Mazraoui? Who do you all want to see in the right back position for Crystal Palace? Who we got? Let's do it. No news on Dorgu's progress. Carrick said he's doing well, but I think when he's going to return after that March through April break, because we're only 20 days out from that. I think he'll return after that break. He'll be ready to go. So I think it's 3 or 4 more games he'll miss, and then he'll be ready to go. Thank you. Close call here. I don't have the answers this time, but I wasn't impressed last week, nor the previous week. So, I don't know. All right, it's tight. We'll give it a couple more votes here. He's one of our only good players. I don't know, man. Like I said, I get it. I get why people say that. I disagree. I have different judgments for the fullbacks than that. So, like, first 3 minutes, Cross comes in from Mbumo, right? Dalot runs onto it. He's about 10 feet in front of the goal all by himself and completely whiffs at it. That happened at the start of Everton. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think a player who does that on a routine basis, and he does, miss huge chances in front of net, can be considered great or can be considered like he's done very well. If our game plan is reliant on a fullback getting into attacking positions, then they have to be judged against the outcomes of doing so. Against Everton, he was in an attacking position, in an attacking role, and he whiffed at an open point-blank shot within the first 5 minutes. And beyond that, I don't think his contributions were particularly meaningful in the attacking positions. Yeah, the pullback in the box. Yeah, there's a few things, guys. Like, I'm sorry, but he was playing in an attacking role, and the contributions were crap. But that's the job. That's what I'm saying. If he was playing in a defensive position, I would have been judging him differently for that game. But he wasn't. He was playing as a forward, and he did a poor job for the forwards. Bigger question would be, why is Dalot... See, and this is an interesting argument that I think is fair. Dalot's very good at doing the thing before the thing. He's doing good at doing the thing before the thing, you know? Getting into the right spot, but he will screw it up. I hope he doesn't keep screwing it up. I hope he hit a great cross in that Tottenham game to Bruno. You know? But I don't forget the 35 shots into the stands before the one that goes in. That's just not how it works for me. That goes for all the players. I don't forget. All right, let's do the center back pairing. I'll just include a few options here. I think we should stick with the Euro Maguire. We don't know if Lissandro's even available, to be fair, either, quite honestly. But given that it's been a question, I don't see how you can start him right off the bat. I think we just go no changes there. I think Maguire Euro is our best balanced pairing right now. For quite a few reasons. I think that one's going to win it quite convincingly. Yeah, Palace will have a lot of pace. Exactly. Palace have a lot of pace, and they will sit in deep, and we need to be able to deal with that pace out the back. Yo. Okay. And Maguire, we can't lose the headers. Yeah, I want to keep Euro going as well. Right mid, right wing. Do we want it to be Mbama? Mbumo, or Ahmad? I got their names combined into Obama. Yeah, he did get asked about Leach, and he said we'll see, basically. So I'm not sure if he's fit or not. He didn't really answer. Obama. Mbumo. All right. Let's get our striker poll going. I don't know. Those are like, just toss the striker poll up. Not that this is going to be a particularly difficult vote. I see where this is going. Sheshko with a full 100%. Let's stop the count while it's still on 100%. Obama's a little more left wing. Depends what scale you used. Might be right in the middle. Might be a striker after all. You ask some people, Obama's a hell of a striker. Drone striker. Got him. All right, Cunha. Oh, let's keep Cunha running out wide on the left-ish. All right, let's go SS10. I don't think we even have any choices here. Sort of 10/2nd striker role. Be an easy win for Bruno here. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Can I ask you a question? We know it's gonna be Casemiro Mainu voted in the midfield. Is it voter fatigue that people don't want to change it? Because it really hasn't been working the last couple of games, and for these small games, it's actually been really poor. But Is it voter fatigue? Is it that there are genuinely would be a lot worse to change it because Ugarte is our only option? Is that the reason? Because it's been bad the last couple of games. Like, actually bad. And in general, I think that you'd kind of be wanting to try something different either way. I mean, we've never even seen a different midfield attempt under Carrick yet, but I just feel like nobody's going to change it. There's no way anybody's going to ask for a change. But I'll be honest, I think it would hard to be worse than it was against Everton in the midfield. I'm just saying. I just do. I think it would be hard to be worse than it was in that game. It was bad. But I understand. It's one of those things. I don't know. It is what it is. It's one of those things. What's going on in this Villa versus Wolves game? No, look, I understand the results-based analysis of it, but it's not that, but like, I'm not saying it would be better. Trust me. I'm not saying that it would be better to do something different, all right? I'm not saying it would be better. But just because we won doesn't mean it's right. You know, it just for what it's worth. Because you just voted Šeško in. So doesn't that mean we should be definitely not starting Šeško? That Mbeumo must start up top? Doesn't it mean that? I'm just saying, if we're being consistent, doesn't it mean we should change nothing? If that's the logic, because the midfield was the worst part of our team in the last game. It was the worst part of our team. It was really bad in that last game. So why are we changing to other places? The midfield was far worse than Dalot. The midfield was far worse than the forwards. But we're changing those. I'm just asking. I'm only raising discussion as a matter of course because it's my job. You know? That's it. I don't rate him. I don't even rate Ugarte, but I don't rate Casemiro either. So so I'm not blinded by the Casemiro Menu midfield at the moment, okay? I don't genuinely think it's like actually been that good. I just don't. It is what it is. I think that my level of rating how the midfield is doing is so much lower than expectations. All right, watching the Villa game? Yeah, it's in the background. Carrick did not make it sound like he was starting Šeško, so I would kind of suggest we're not going to change anything. What do I suggest? What do I suggest? I actually have no idea, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I would probably against a team like Palace, I'd probably go with the same thing. I mean, look, I picked my team already. Let's put it back up here. I picked my team. It's the same as yours. Believe it or not, I'm flipping tabs here. Hold on. Here, I'll scroll so you can see. Look, this is my team I picked. It's the same as yours. I picked the same team you guys voted for. So don't get me wrong. I pre-planned this. I picked the same team. It's just that I think at some point very soon this is going to stop working. I think at some point soon this is going to stop working and we're going to start losing games because we've been overrun in the middle like over and over and over and over. And yes, so that was what I was thinking about too, Matt. Like, forget Ugarte for a moment. Ahmad does so much defensive work. What if you threw in Bumo and Šeško up top and put Bruno deep or Casemiro? I'm just saying. Why? Why not? All Casemiro was doing was smashing the ball forward in that game. He wasn't tackling anyone. Bruno is better out of possession at this point. Why not put Bruno and Mainu together deeper? You can say immediately that it's going to be worse. Fine, you could say that. But if you stick Ahmad out wide, Bruno and Mainu in the middle, and then Šeško and Mbumo up top as the two, where you can do those little cool flick-ons, why would it be worse? A little more open defensively, perhaps, because Casemiro isn't sitting deeper. But I don't know. I'm just saying, entertain me, man. I would try it. I would genuinely try it. Because I really don't like it, that midfield right now. I just don't. I don't think he's going to do it. I'm not saying it's 100% going to work or something like that. But I don't know. I would even consider, I don't know. There's other things I would consider on that, but I just don't know. Now experiment. You're not understanding why I want us to change something, right? The reason why I want us to change something is because it's not experimenting for experimenting's sake. Because you're saying, well, don't change anything because we'll stop winning. No. I think we're going to stop winning if we don't change something because the performances haven't been very good. The only reason I'm thinking about changing is because I think the winning isn't a guarantee. I think the winning is in danger. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. And I don't think I'm the only one who feels that way. It's not about entertaining. I said entertain me, but what I'm saying is like, I don't think what we've been doing has been working nearly as well as people are making out. The numbers are all in decline. The performances are in decline. Yes, we've got 3 points, but I'm not the only one who said this. I'm not far from the only one who said this. Everybody knows it if they open their eyes a little bit and don't be emotional about it. Our performances have declined over the last 3 or 4 games pretty heavily. You can't just bet that it's just we're going to luck out and it's going to work forever. It might against Palace. Palace are absolutely terrible. We could probably just win against Palace no matter what we do because they're in such bad form right now and we have much better players. So don't get me wrong. I don't think that like it's a necessity to change. I just look at it and I go, there's red flags. And we can either, not on Carrick, I'm saying there's red flags with the way we're playing. There's red flags. We can either do something about it before, or we can wait till the points stop and change. And then we'll be going, well, we should have done this earlier, and we'll go Captain Hindsight on it. Except let's maybe instead of Captain Hindsighting it, maybe we could be foresighting it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, to use executive corporate lingo, you know, why don't we windshield this instead of rear view mirror it? You know what I'm saying? Sorry. But yeah, look, let's see what happens on Sunday. I would often say that if it's not a good performance against a bad Palace side at home, then changes are we really do need to think about changes in the next game before it's too late because we have a shorter turnaround. The first short turnaround, I think it is. I guess we had a pretty short turnaround from I feel like from Fulham. I don't know. I feel like we did have a short turnaround, but we do have a turnaround coming. If we change and lose, then we should have stuck with it. Yeah. But I don't know. I think that's why, like, look, there's no correct answer to it. I'm just saying that if you don't just look at results and you do look at performances, it's pretty obvious something needs to change. Now, maybe it all turns around just by getting Šeško earlier on the pitch or something, and that is ultimately possible. Maybe they just start playing better. I'd be surprised about that because I don't think that's particularly the issue. I think we're going to beat Palace either way because I just think we have a lot more threat than they do. But I do think that if it's not a fairly pedestrian victory, we should once again be discussing changes for the next games. That's the main thing. But yeah, because it's like it works. It works until it doesn't. You know what I mean? I'm scared of that because we've seen it. Ironically, it's kind of funny, right? Like this season under Amram, right? We didn't really have big win streaks. We also had no loss streaks. It was like we avoided streakiness in either direction. Under every other manager we've had, they've had better win streaks, but also much better loss streaks. And I feel like those are instances where they rode something that was working and then it stopped. And because they didn't see ahead, it fell below a level and then it just never picked up again. You know, and I think about Ollie's interim period, and I am still scared of that. Even though Carrick's a different coach to Ollie, we were on a rocket ride, and then it hit the skids, and we couldn't win a game. We just couldn't win anymore. It was just terrible. We just couldn't because we never tried to fix anything before that point in time. We were just riding. Don't change it because it's winning. Don't change it because it's winning. I think you do have to have some more foresight than that because. But we'll see. We'll see. There may not be changes that fix it, but I think we might not have it in the squad. That's why I'm not saying like this is a Carrick problem. I'm saying I'm just worried. That's all. It's not a Carrick thing. I'm just worried. I would try things myself because that's just in my nature. But like, I am worried because I feel like there is something to worry about. Thank you for the donation, DB Cooper. But just says, type your message out. Type your message out if you have it, because if you were typing a message. Type it out. Yeah, I agree with that too, though, DB. Great point. Thank you, though. But yeah, that's all. I'm just looking at it like, again, this isn't a point of like, is Carrick great? Is he shit? Oh, what an idiot. Right? You know, this types of things. I'm saying, I'm worried about the team. I don't know if we have any answers. Personally, I would try some things to fix it before it's bad, but I'm not sure we will. That's all. But it's just like, you know, but it was, I remember the Ollie period, and I remember I didn't want him to get the job back then. One thing I got, maybe I was right at the time, maybe I was wrong, but the reason I didn't, I got plenty of things wrong in my opinions, but when I say I wanted, I'm just talking about the specifics of that time. I remember riding the high into Paris. But I remember also at that time, our performances were starting to really struggle. And you could see it. And we were still winning points, right? We were still winning at that point. But you could see the performances had started to drop even by the end of February during that tenure, which is where we are now. And then, but it was all the emotion. It was everything. And the rest of the season went really, really bad. And we still ended up falling out of Champions League positions after climbing our way back up into them. I'm scared of that happening again. I am scared of that happening again. And I think that you do have to read the red flags a little. You know, I'll give you an example. All right. I'll give you another example. Ten Hag's second season. It was the scam. Even finishing in 8th was a total scam that season, performance-wise, right? And one of the reasons he didn't change anything that year is because he kept sneaking results out of bad games. You know, it started with Brentford. Excuse me. Throwing McTominay on as a pseudo extra like box crasher, right? He threw McTominay on as that box crasher against Brentford. Scored 2 goals, won us the game. Great moment. And then he just kept doing it. He just kept starting McTominay as a box and would have him just box crashing. Because no matter how bad we played, it would bail us out of a few points. It would get us a goal here. It would get us a win here. It would do something like that. That doesn't mean it was working. That doesn't mean it was a good thing. It was a really shit season, and we just kept doing that instead of actually fixing some of the problems that we had. You know what I mean? And it was just, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't totally assess just purely on results at the time. But obviously this is better than that. So it's not like that. I'm just trying to find comparisons and everything to the situation. But hey, lots to debate on that. Okay. Anyways, I think that's it. Looking at it again, this is the lineup you guys have went with. Once again, these are the picks for this weekend for United against Palace. I'll be live over there 7 a.m. my time, I think, on Sunday. I will be live tomorrow as well, just to yap and see where things are at after some of these games that are ongoing, including this Wolves-Villa game, which if it stays level is very good because we could go one back of Villa this weekend if they end up in a draw. And that is that, all right? So we talked about Rashford, we talked about center backs, we talked about the coaches, we talked about the game. If you haven't watched it all, catch up on all of that. Catch up from the videos from earlier this week. A lot of informational stuff that's not really time-gated. It will be relevant for the coming days and weeks and such as well, okay? Thank you all for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. I hope you are well. I hope you and all your families are doing well, and I'll see you back tomorrow or on Sunday morning. All right? Have a good one, everybody. Good night. Goodbye. See you.